one of the problems with our space right now is that we have these benches so tightly stacked together that as we're walking through, we're having to move chairs and have people move forward.
We are at maximum capacity as far as student enrollments.
I think with the enrollment increasing as much as it is, we just need to better be able to accommodate our students. And right now, we don't have the space.
What we really need are some new lab stations that allow for more collaborative learning, but we also need a place for the students to come and be together.
In order to stay current, we need to be upgrading facilities all the time.
If we're trying to invite students to the college and have them have a great experience, then we want to come through on our promise.
Make sure you fill in the subject data at the top. Because of the tight space between the lab benches, between the lab bench and the wall, it's really hard to get to the students. And then they usually have their backpacks sitting on the floor, so you're stepping over backpacks and pushing them under the lab benches so that you can get to the students.
This is really a safety hazard. The students really feel the lack of space. When they're running into each other, doing their labs, they can't get from one end of the lab to the other very easily. They have nowhere to store their books. They're just piling on top of each other trying to do the experiments, having to wait to do experiments because of lack of space. How many of you would like a lab space to study?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to have, where you could have models and you could be able to go in and study outside of lab? Because a lot of times it's hard to get into lab because we're running labs. What's that?
For anatomy with like the skeletons and the brains, and they have more room.
Or maybe someplace where you could set up a microscope and look at your slides.
Yes. Yeah. There's no room to move around. We're bumping into them and they're bumping into us, and then we got a crowd behind them to go get our auger plates, and it's really tough to move around in here.
What we need is a space for the students to, one, put their things. That's a big issue. But it's also, there's no place that they can really call home, and they really are here for 8 to 12 hours a day. So living out of your car is not fun, and that's what a lot of them do. So what we really need is a place for the students to be comfortable, to have some ownership, and to be able to work together.
There's a couple of things that I want you to do in this scenario.
We have issues with space when it comes especially to Skills Lab. If we want to increase our enrollment at all, that really puts us in a situation where we would have to definitely cut back on our curriculum.
Any questions about anything that we talked about last week? I think initially that the idea of having a building and a facility set aside for not just our program, but for all of health and science would be a wonderful recruiting tool.
I want this to be the best work you've done on a lab report in your whole life. If we're trying to invite students to the college and have them have a great experience, then we want to come through on our promise. And if we get them through the door and then kind of have to keep explaining ourselves, it's not how you want to run your labs or your classes. You can't just keep inviting guests over and then put them in the basement and then put them on the couch and put them somewhere else. You want to put them somewhere where they got a great view, and they got great space, and they're in a top-notch facility.
When a student is looking at going to a college, and of course we pull a lot of our students locally, but even those students are making the decision, do I want to go locally to a college, do I want to go to another community college within the state, or do I want to go out of state? And they look at those spaces and they see a lab that's run down and old versus a newer lab, a more modern facility. I think just natural that they want to choose those modern labs. So I think in terms of keeping students that we have in the county, having them come here for biology rather than going out of state or a different community college, it makes a competitive difference.
It isn't just a building. And I know that when voters are looking at this proposal, it is a decision they have to make based on where their finances are and where their loyalties are and what their opinions are. But every single person that is looking at that opportunity to vote yes or no will need the services of a nurse at some point in time. Once you are in a position where you need the healthcare services provided by a nurse, you want that nurse to be exceptionally trained. You want that nurse to be a graduate of a strong program that has a running track record of producing very sought after, exceptional quality nurses that are recruited heavily from all over the country. And knowing that we are limited on the numbers of those nurses this program can graduate, you want there to be an opportunity for one of those stellar nurses to take care of you or your family member. So you really are voting for your future.
This is an investment not only in a building, but this is an investment in people. This is an investment in those homeowners' children or grandchildren or neighbors that will be of value to not only the community, property, but to people. And so, sure, times are tight, but this is a good investment.